Welcome to the first book talk of 2023, and you know I like to wrap up the previous month, so here are the books that I read during December of 2022. The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, Last Call at the Nightingale by Catherine Shellman, Kiss Her Once for Me by Allison Cochran, Each Night Was Illuminated by Jodi Lynn Anderson, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and The Circus Train by Amita Parikh. So this was a fun month book-wise. I did like the majority of the books that I read. 2 of the books did get a 3 out of 5, but everything else got a 5 out of 5. I'm gonna do a long form video, but I decided to just make it into a short of the top 5 books that I read during the whole of 2022. I will be linking that short at the end of this video in case you wanted to know what I thought of all 61 books that I read during 2022. But back to this video, let me start my ranking. Coming in at number 5 is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This came out like forever ago. Like, as you know, it came out forever ago, but it was on that list of 100 best books that I'm eventually going to finish, so I thought I would read it during December. It was good. I never saw the movie as well that was made of it. I think there's a movie. Is there a movie? But I never saw it. I knew it was about teenagers / young adults who were suffering with cancer, but I didn't know, like, I figured, but I didn't know like how exactly it was going to end. Finished reading it during my lunch break, and I'm really glad that there was no one else in the room because like I was eating my apple and sobbing into the apple. It was such a good story, and I can really see why this book, especially when it came out, had a cult following. Coming in at number 4 is See You Yesterday. This is, I'm not exactly sure if it's like YA or just a regular novel. Those sort of things don't matter to me. I don't know if they matter to you, but it follows 2 college freshmen who are stuck in a continuous time loop. So it's sort of like a Groundhog's Day sort of thing, that they are just reliving the same day over and over again. In that, knowing that it's just that continuous loop, they're doing different things to try to get out of it. And so like they're trying to do like good deeds, forgive people that have wronged them in their life, things like that. And then they start to really like shift, knowing that the day is going to keep repeating itself. They start living life to its fullest. So that was a really cool shift to see. And I just found that the character development was really great throughout the book. Coming in at number 3 is Last Call at the Nightingale. And this is a murder mystery sort of book, but not like a gruesome murder mystery sort of book. Sort of like a light and fluffy murder mystery, which is honestly my favorite type of murder mystery books. It takes place during Prohibition, and the Nightingale is a speakeasy of sorts. Not really a speakeasy, I guess. It's, everyone knows it as a dancing club, but then they also do serve booze. But outside of the Nightingale, whenever the book first opens, a murder happens, and the main character is hired on / blackmailed on by the owner of the Nightingale to try to get information about said murder. And the way that she goes about doing that is in a really clever way. This book did have a lot of twists and turns to it. I thought I knew going into it, like about like halfway through, like once we had met all of the characters, I thought I knew who had done the murder, or not like specifically like pulled the trigger, so to speak, who had maybe like hired out a hit or something like that. But I was completely wrong. It wasn't until like the last like 2 or 3 pages that I actually learned, or like I guess that the reader actually learns exactly who pulled that trigger. And you know me, I always love a murder mystery that keeps me guessing. Coming in at number 2 is The Dead Romantics. I picked it up back in October when I was trying just to read like scoopy books. I picked it up because I thought that it would be a nice like light-hearted sort of thing, because it's a supernatural romance with all of the other like thriller horror sort of books that I got. But I didn't get around to reading it until obviously December, because I was a little backlogged with my books. This follows the story of a ghostwriter for one of the most famous romance novels out there, and our main character, who was recently dumped, no longer believes in romance. So she's at this crossroad of, should I continue doing my ghostwriting for this romance novelist, or should I go in my other path? And the sort of supernatural twist to this is that this writer can in fact see ghosts herself. So she meets up with a character, Ghost, who helps her decide exactly which path in her life she wants to take. So this one was a really fun book. So I like the fact that the main character had that sixth sense that she could see the ghost, but I also liked the little twist that the ghost really helped her on with her life path. Super cute. And coming in at number 1 is The Circus Train. This is one that I read like at the very tail end of December. I think I finished this on December 30th. So just got it in. This was one of my add-on options for Book of the Month for December. So if you want to see that video, I will have it linked below for you. So The Circus Train, I really liked it because of the way the story was told. It is historical fiction. It takes place during the Great Depression and World War II. Some of the focus was, but the main focus was not on the Depression era or on the war. It was on all of the characters, and I liked that. A lot of times, historical fiction is one of my favorite genres, but I find that a lot of times the time period or the war is another character, and that's great, but like, sometimes it's not, just sometimes the way that it's actually written. But with the Circus Train, it was sort of just the backdrop for all of these characters, and I really did like that. So the Circus Train's main character has polio. She's had polio since childhood. Like, this book takes place over decades. So she's a teenager at the beginning, turns into a full-grown adult at the end of the book. But it follows her journey and her family's journey, and by extension, like her extended family, because they're all in a circus on a train, hence the Circus Train. But it follows that whole experience of her dealing with the polio during that time period, kind of navigating that whole world of where people with a handicap such as polio were kind of like pushed to the side and they weren't given that many opportunities. So it really kind of deals with that. Since we're in a new year, I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to have an actual, like, I know I always say like, oh, this is the next thing on my TBR list, but I'm going to actually have an actual TBR list. Some of, I'll already know. That's right, I'm being really optimistic this month with how many books I'm going to read. So some I already know, and then some, or one, for this month it's just going to be one, I'm going to pick out of a TBR jar. So these are all of the books that I have not listed in here, but all of the books that I have not read in my apartment. So I want to make, that's one of my goals. I'd like to read through all of my books that I do have this year. Quick rundown. I'm not going to tell you what they're about or anything like that, but quick rundown of the TBR list for January. It's not going to be the first time, but I have to do a quick read through of Hamlet. I actually need to do that within the next 2 to 3 days, because starting on Tuesday when we return to school, I'm teaching this, and I've read it multiple times, the focus in one of my Shakespeare classes of like my analyzation that I did back at college. So like, I know the story, but I would like to reread it just so it's not like, so that like I have like actual talking points with my students, and it wasn't like The Tempest where I read it with them as we were reading it in first hour. I do usually prepare my lessons. It's just that was the fourth 9 weeks last year, and like my brain was gone by then, so I was reading along with them. Hamlet's first up, then I'm going to be reading The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, Commonwealth by Anne Pratchett, An Unwanted Guest by Sari Lapana, Bookish People by Susan Call, The Stolen Book of Evelyn Aubrey by Serena Burdick. Also currently reading it, started at the end of December on the 31st. Unfortunately, couldn't read the entire book in a day. I know. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was another choice in my December book of the month. And then I am going to be picking only one out of my TBR list. Let's go. Or TBR jar. Let me go all the way to the bottom. The Perishing. Let me go get that one. All right, here it is. So this was in October of 2021, the book of the month that I chose. So this is The Perishing by Natasha Dion. So as always, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what you have been reading lately. Recommend something for us. And if you want to know what I thought of, can I lift this? All of these books. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so that whenever I post the January top 5 in February, YouTube will let you know. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with me. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in another video that YouTube should be recommending now.